Hello, I am Lauren Redgerson, and this is my presentation for assignment 4. We covered, for this module, we covered Chapter 19 in American Yawp, the American American Empire. So, this covers the period after 1890 and up until World War I, when the United States started to expand its influence outside of our nation's borders. It started with a conflict with the Spanish nation. We fought a few battles against them. It was they called it the Spanish-American War at the time. It only lasted 4 months, in which time we won very many victories. We had very few losses. In the main country that was at play was Cuba. Cuba was seeking freedom from the Spanish Empire, and the Spanish Empire had control over them, Guam, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico. There was a battle, the Battle of San Juan, where Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders were successful in beating back the Spanish, and following that battle, shortly after, they signed the Paris Treaty. In the Paris Treaty, that's when the United States was awarded annexation of several countries and gained them as territories. So territories were Guam and Puerto Rico, which we still have today, and for the Philippines were annexed. Cuba was freed. We did, I guess, based on the readings, President McKinley did not expect to gain control of countries like the Philippines. He was not really sure what to do with it. They were already conflicted with what to do with, our overseas relations. They could see the benefit in it economically and, for the safety of the United States, but some people in the country at the time felt that it went against our foundings as a nation. As we freed ourselves from imperial rule, how could we justify imposing imperial rule on others? In the Philippines, there were many terrible battles that were fought. Many civilians there died in the uprising against us and the transfer of ownership from Spain to the United States. And it was tragic. The United States ultimately decided to keep pursuing its advances. We could see a lot of economical benefits. At the time, we were also expanding and strengthening our own navy, and becoming a world power. So there was benefits to it. There were philosophical issues against it, ethical issues. People felt ethically against it, that it was immoral what we were doing and went against our founding, but still we continued. It was very interesting. We got to hear from different writers at the time in the country. It wasn't just that they were against it because of the ethics. There was a lot of racial tension. So Americans were concerned at the time, some of them, that we were going to bring about racial impurity, that we only wanted people who basically looked, the right way, acted the right way, and had the same beliefs as the people that were here, which kind of was anti, what we stood for. Very interesting, and the Chinese experienced a lot of racial issues at the time. They were, here after helping build a railroad, and were not treated fairly at all. They faced segregation, just like the African Americans at the time, threats to their businesses, their families, their homes. And we read a few letters that covered that and the issues. Specifically, there was one in California where a mother wrote a letter begging for her daughter not to be segregated and to be able to attend school with her friends who were white Americans in the area that they lived in instead of having to travel. As a mom, I really sympathized with her plight and the way that she felt. I would have wanted the same thing as her. So good for that mom for stepping up and addressing that issue. And because of her, I'm sure, and many others, we do not have segregated schools now. There was another important thing that I wanted to point out that happened during the time of the American Empire era. Teddy Roosevelt, I think I mentioned him before, he had a lot of political influence. His, philosophy of carry a big stick and speak softly, it changed the way that we, our relations with other countries, played out, and how we handled a lot of our negotiations moving forward. So it was a important time in American history, but also, one that was steeped in negativity and some, issues. So learning and growing as a nation is what we did, and, it just, Hawaii. I forgot to mention Hawaii. So there was a section about Hawaii as well, and our annexation of them. Basically, there were missionaries at the time, starting this all out. There were missionaries that were traveling, trying to bring Christianity to other developing countries. Business owners piggybacked on that. Hawaii is one of those countries where that happened. And they inserted themselves, started, highly profitable sugar trade and plantations. And trade was very important. So it was another reason for us to seek control of proper, territories outside of our countries outside of our own. And with Hawaii, it was just something that they felt that they could not lose. It was important for our economy, our business, trade, and it was a not so great time in history. They felt that the Hawaiians, the natives, felt at the time that, this was not what they wanted, and Americans felt it was our, duty as a nation to bring Christianity and civilization to these considered underdeveloped countries. So we felt that we could not just leave them to their own devices. They were not running their countries effectively, in the United States' opinion, so they felt just highly justified in everything that they did. So there was a letter that we read called The White Man's Burden, and that kind of covers that as well. So those are all the big talking points I wanted to cover for this chapter, and it was highly informative, and I definitely did not know all of what I learned about the Philippines, so I know a lot more about that now, and I'm grateful. So thank you.